Hi everybody! Today I'll be making a borosilicate heart pendant in a simple twisted design. This could also be done in soft glass, but there are some few minor differences with the two glasses. And so I'll be explaining that in this video. And this video is especially for Jay. Thanks so much for finding me on Facebook. So what I'm starting with here is a clean end of about a 12 millimeter thick clear rod. And I am going to be adding this medium transparent blue color to the surface. And this rod is small, so I'm using my Lauren Stump little grabbers there to hold this rod so I don't burn my fingers off. But one of the differences with Boro is when you're laying on color to the surface of your rod or your bead or whatever you have, when you're laying down stripings of color, you want to make sure that you heat the surface of both rods, your holding rod, my clear rod right there, and the blue. You want to keep the heat on it so you get a nice meld as you're swiping down. This eliminates getting bubbles in your glass, little gaps that'll cause bubbles, and allows a much smoother swipe. So just keep that in mind. It's a lot different than soft glass. So here I am like really running out of this medium blue, and so I had to actually stop the video in a little bit. I had like one more swipe to coat this whole clear rod, and I ran out. So I ended up stopping the video and getting a darker blue to fill in that gap, and then I also put a couple more swipes, two more swipes, right on top of the surface of the lighter blue, just so that I could have like light blue and dark blue varied in this pendant. And I actually forgot to turn on the video when I started doing that blue swiping. So basically right here I have those dark blue swipes on the surface. You can kind of see them, they're darker. So I have 3 swipes evenly spaced out pretty much. And I have this sped up really fast. I am using a concentrator, so it takes me a long time to do Boro since my oxygen filling pump actually broke down again, which really upsets me. So I don't have the oxygen power that I'd really like. I'd really like to open up the outer flame of this torch, because it has an inner flame which I'm using, and it also has an outer flame. And I would melt it a lot faster, but it's taken me longer, so I really sped up this video so you wouldn't have to watch this long, boring video of me just melting this together. So basically I want to melt it all together, get it all fairly smooth, and then I'm going to add some little stripes of color to add a little more variance. So it's not totally melted in, but it's fairly smooth. And so I'm using some little stringers of Paramore blue. Paramore has a really great smooth color palette. I love their color. So I'm using some of that, and then I'm putting some green, some Paramore green. I don't remember what specific color it is, but I'm putting little stringer stripes of that. And then I have a purple rod down there on my bench, and I'm going to use the purple. That's not Paramore. I forgot what that even is, but sadly it's not a Paramore color. But I'm putting the purple too. So I'm going to have some varied color stripes in this heart. And so after I lay down all this color, then it's going to be more melting, melting, melting. And so I speed this up a lot again. Try to get all those melted, and you can see it's a little crooked. It's a little fatter on one side than the other side. And I also try to even that out because I want to keep the ends, the twisted ends at the top there. I want to keep those pretty much even so my design doesn't distort. So I'm trying to even it out a little bit too as I melt. And it's getting a little more straightened out. I'm using gravity and just angling my hand back and forth, up and down, to try to even out that glass. And so that's all I'm doing here. And then I shape a little bit. I want to make more of a ball form at the top of the glass to shape a heart, and have it tapered down a little bit towards that holding rod. And so I kind of try to go for a cone shape, but it's rounded at the top. And it takes a lot of melting to do that. So that's what I'm doing here. So I pretty much have the point gather at my outside end. I pretty much have that on center now, so I'm good with that for the most part. And I'm actually going to twist and pull off to terminate this point. So that's what I'm doing here. I have a smaller, about a 5 or 6 millimeter rod in my right hand, and I'm going to attach it to the end of this mass. This gives me a little more control, but also I'm heating the outside end, and I'm starting to twist it a little bit. Right at the end, see, I'm twisting it, I'm pulling it out of the flame and twisting it. And then I heat the other section, the bottom section, because my torch is too small to heat the whole thing. And then I'm twisting that. And you can basically twist as much or as little as you want. It all depends on how you like your twists, if you want them tight or looser. And now I'm going to focus on the very end there. And on the very end, I want to terminate all those colors and the stripings to a nice point. So I'm twisting and pulling out at the same time and getting a nice termination point. And you want this on center, so it'll be fairly in the center of your heart. And so I have a nice termination point, and now I sped up the video again. This is like, it's over 2 times speed. And so I'm trying to heat the front so I can gather that down and it'll become more of a ball shape. And so that's why I'm facing my rod towards the flame. And with Boro, I don't know if you can notice, compared to my other videos, it has a much bigger glare. And you could see that red glare coming off of it, which is really strange in the camera. I don't know why it's showing up red, but it's a much brighter flare that you get from Boro. So you really need to wear at least number 3 shades with your didymiums, or didymiums with number 3 when you're using color, because you don't want to ruin your eyes. But I'm just melting this down. See, it's bulking up a little bit, and I still want to focus on the end, I believe, to get more of a ball shape. And I'm trying to taper it down towards the bottom. And I was just helping it there a little bit too by pushing it, because my flame definitely isn't really hot enough to really melt this glass quickly. So this video was much longer than it is here. So now I'm focusing on that end again, trying to ball it up, and just keep rotating. I'm trying to keep those that termination point of all those lines in the front on center, which is where you want to keep it, especially if you're working marbles and such. You want to make sure you keep on center. So now I'm getting it really, really hot because I'm going to flatten it a little bit. Not a whole lot. So I get this whole mass of glass. I want the whole thing saturated with heat. And then I'm going to take my mashers and just flatten it. You can see it's a nice chunky lollipop shape. And after that, I want to make the top humps of the heart. So I'm heating just the top section, maybe about 1/3 of it. And I go off screen there a little bit. Sorry about that. But so I'm pushing it, and I have a small razor blade. It probably would have been a lot easier if I had like an old dinner knife or something, because I would have had a longer blade to work with. But you want to just determine that heart shape, and I push down between the center, and then on either side I push down also. So now it's sped up a lot again, and I'm shaping those little humps. I kind of focus on one hump at a time and get a nice shape. However I feel like if I want them more elongated, if I want them more wide. I'm just focusing on getting those humps shaped out and shaped fairly evenly. They don't have to be perfect because this heart does go off center when it hangs. It's not a perfectly symmetrical heart. But I'm doing that. I'm also focusing, I'm trying to get some glass in the center of the heart, so I have a nice chunky heart. And so I have a nice shape there. I'm kind of happy with those humps. Got a nice shape there. And then I'll start focusing on tapering out the bottom. Now when you have a design on the bottom, and I'm re-solidifying that cut mark right there. And now I'm going to focus on the bottom. And so I'm basically heating the bottom third of the heart. And I really want to saturate the heat in there. And this allows a nice taper without distorting too much of the design. And see, I hold it straight up and down. So I'm just letting gravity let the heart droop when it's ready and when it's hot enough. If I forced this and tried to pull it out, then you can get some real unwanted, possibly, distortion in your design, whatever design it is. In this case, it's the stripings. And you can actually see that distortion a lot when I pull out the taper. So at the very bottom of the taper of the heart, there is some distortion there, and that's natural. It's normal to happen. But if I was going to pull this out all from this bail that I'm putting on, which is off center for one, it's not in the center point of the heart, it would distort all those stripes on one side in one direction. It would pull them all down while the other stripes will stay up and tight with each other, if that makes any sense. And so that's why I let it droop down naturally. So now I'm putting the hole in my bail with my little tweezers, which is my favorite way to do it. And just determine a hole, or get that hole all the way through. And then I use a tool to open it up. And that's the way I prefer to do it. A lot of people do it different ways. And once I got my hole set up, I want to straighten it. I want to straighten that bail, so I heat the whole bail. And I pinch it with my tiny paddles just to make sure it's nice and straight with the pendant, straight up and down. And now I'm going to finish my heart. I'm holding it upside down again, getting heat in the bottom there, preheating my tweezers because you don't want to touch any of this glass with a cold tool because you can crack it. And now I'm pulling off on an angle. And that's where the distortion happened, which you'll see in the final picture. But here I'm trying to angle this heart so you could see it a little bit before I put it in the kiln. But there it is, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching.